my name is Varsha Davy. I'm going to talk about Pavlov's theory of behavioral and social learning today. Pavlov's theory of behavioral and social learning is commonly known as classical conditioning. In 1904, Pavlov won the Nobel Prize for his study of the physiology of the digestive system. During his studies, he accidentally came across this now widely known idea of classical conditioning. His test subjects were dogs. They responded to the presence of meat and the ringing of a bell with salivating. Eventually, as the experimentation process proceeded, the dogs began salivating without the presence of meat and only with the sound of a bell. Pavlov saw that if you combine something new with a natural occurring response, the same response can be obtained with a new stimulus. So in his experiment, the food was considered something called the unconditional stimulus. The salivating was the unconditional response. In this terminology, unconditional refers to something natural or unlearned, something that you can't teach. And a stimulus is something that causes a response. Introducing a new neutral stimulus, like a bell, in conjunction with the unconditional stimulus, the food, produces a conditioned response, the salivation, to only the bell. Now, basically, Pavlov's theory is encompassed by the idea that someone's behavioral and social learning can be conditioned by the use of positive reinforcement. In his cases with the dogs, salivation was actually the learned response. One common example, one of my favorite TV shows, Big Bang Theory, illustrates a great example of conditional learning. Penny, one of the characters in the show, she's not always so with it, is conditioned by another character, Sheldon, who's actually described as a genius. So we're going to just watch the quick clip really quickly.
What's this cartoon called again?
Oshikuru Demon Samurai.
It's not a cartoon, it's anime.
Anime. You know, I knew a girl in high school named Anime. Anime Fletcher. She was born with one nostril. Then she had this bad nose job and basically wound up with 3.
You're here a lot now.
Oh, am I talking too much? I'm sorry. Zip.
Thank you. Chocolate?
Yes, please. Oh. Hey, Kim? Yeah. You know what? Hold on. Let me take this in the hall. You'll never guess who they got to replace me with.
Okay. I know what you're doing.
Really?
Yes. You're using chocolates as positive reinforcement for what you consider correct behavior.
Very good. Chocolate?
Sheldon, you can't train my girlfriend like a lab rat.
Actually, it turns out I can.
Well, you shouldn't.
There's just no pleasing you, is there, Leonard? You weren't happy with my previous approach to dealing with her, so I decided to employ operant conditioning techniques, building on the works of Thorndike and B.F. Skinner. Yet by this time next week, I believe I can have her jumping out of a pool, balancing a beach ball on her nose.
No, this has to stop now.
I'm not suggesting we really make her jump out of a pool. I thought the bazinga was implied. We're just tweaking her personality. It's sanding off the rough edges, if you will.
No, you're not sanding Penny.
Are you saying that I am forbidden from applying a harmless, scientifically valid protocol that will make our lives better?
Yes, you're forbidden.
Bad, Leonard.
So if you notice, in the video clip, there's actually a mention of someone called B.F. Skinner. B.F. Skinner elaborated on Pavlov's theory by addressing the role of consequences in the learning process. So we saw that consequences play a role. Now, my question to you guys is, as parents or as family members, uncles, what are some examples of classical conditioning conditioning that you guys use? Because I know I use it with my nieces all the time. Whenever, we're going to a store or whatever we need to, something that where I know they might get a little bit out of control, just to kind of condition them, I'll probably use something like candy. So what are some examples that you guys have probably used in your lives with classical conditioning? Pete?
Well, I worked in a program for students with emotional disturbance at a high school level. We employed a point system, a positive and negative points. When the students met their expectations and their appropriate social behaviors that they were supposed to achieve, they were fine, they were at the balance, they were at the center. If they went above and beyond, they earned positive points. If they went below, they had points subtracted. Now, it was cumulative, so over the course of the 5 days, on Friday, towards the end of the day, they would earn different things. Little prizes, movie day, things like that. Also, with using the negative consequences to it, if they fell below, if they had Monday or Tuesday, they were able to chart it across the board as well and see how they were able to improve to earn that.
Yeah.
To basically meet their expected behavior or go above and beyond.
Yeah.
And then see the consequences of when they fell below.
That's a great thing. Karen?
I know that my son's school uses, it's a school for autism, and they use what's called ABA therapy, which is applied behavioral analysis. So to prompt an appropriate response, and it's a one-on-one conditioning, you will offer, for him it's goldfish.
Yeah.
So in order for him to maybe pronounce the letters, like to enunciate his letters or his words, and particularly ones like where his tongue has to touch his teeth, he does not like the sensation. So they offer the reward, and it's visible to him the entire time that he'll be given one, until actually then they start to wean it off, and it's every 3 times that he pronounces the T down to no reward.
Yeah.
So they bring it in, and then that way it elicits the response in the long term, so then that we know what he's working on, so that we can ask for without any reward.
Yeah.
So it's really effective.
No, that sounds like a great thing. Zach?
When we were potty training my godchildren, we used M&Ms,
Yeah.
and they had a certain amount of M&Ms they're allowed to have, and if they went to the bathroom in the toilet, they were allowed to get one M&Ms, and if they didn't go, they actually lost M&Ms from their stockpile, and so it was a risk-reward
Oh, that's great.
kind of thing.
I know I used to do that with
So
my nieces as well. When we needed to go to like the dentist and they were really scared, it was like it's something that they needed to do. The behavioral theory actually goes on to say that human behavior is shaped by past experiences, right? But can be modified through conditioning. What's one thing as teachers that you guys can identify as a behavior probably learned from the past by our students, whether it's peers or parents? And what's one way you think that could possibly be conditioned?
Well, for us, it's been the behavior points.
Yeah.
One of their things was that they were so used to either leaving and not doing the work,
Yeah.
or simply having nothing to look forward to, is you kind of dangle like a carrot, that if you have the quality behavior points, as you know, your reward is there.
Yeah.
So that hopefully intrinsically it kind of leads to them staying in class, wanting to be there, realizing that at the end there's something to work for.
Exactly. Yeah. So speaking of our behavior system, point system at this school, at our school we actually have a rewards point system where students who maintain 80 points out of 100 are eligible for certain events and activities throughout the year, such as dances, field trips, etc., etc. For example, one that's coming up really soon, tomorrow actually, students who maintain their points are eligible to go on the 8th grade field trip to Rapids. A lot of kids were working towards it. Like you said, kids who lost certain points were able to gain back certain points with certain activities. But kids who are far below the points are not able to go on these trips because of the behavior point system. For example, some of the points that are deducted from the 100 points. For example, if you have dress code violations, that's -4 points. Defiance is -6 points, and physical aggression or referrals are 20 points. So even with 1 or 2 referrals, students can really dip really quickly underneath that 80 points. Now, what's one pro about classical conditioning that you guys can see?
Well, certainly, I mean, like we were saying, they see an end to it, an end game to it. So they'll see something that they can meet, an expectation, that if they go above and beyond, or at least just maintain the status quo, they can achieve. So, I mean, again, with the students I've worked with, it's getting them to maintain that one level,
Yeah.
and then showing them that if they do go above and beyond, there are certainly rewards to it.
eligibility for the fourth 9 weeks events than we did for the first. In the first, they were still kind of getting used to the idea that this event is it's here, and I've got to maintain these boards. But by now, the availability for both the dance and the rapids was at least like 20% higher.
Yeah.
Because they knew what they had to do. But we have the Blue Devil dollars, so for those that go above and
they can
beyond.
always, we also have the system of Blue Devil bucks where they can buy pizza or chips or ice cream in the cafeteria as well, so that works as well. As with all systems though, there are bad things about it. There are cons about the point system and reward system. What's one that you guys can identify that's really kind of working against the students and that those policies that we have in place?
Well, for one in high school, they're not going to have the point system as the reward. It's too high of a population to keep track of. The numbers are higher. So if intrinsic motivation wasn't ever developed as a result, it's supposed to get you to kind of like how a teenager can't picture their future, like college, is to get them to think short term, and then a little bit longer term, and then your long term goals. If they don't actually get the idea of the system of maintaining their self, their own behavior, their own, test taking skills, being on time, or any of those things, then it won't work. And if they don't really get that, then too many opportunities for redemption too. Like, losing, gaining 10 points back for cleaning up the campus is it didn't really help them out that much.
Yeah, because then they know they can get away with it.
Yeah, they knew what to do to get just the right amount of
How far to push a boundary.
Absolutely.
And then they say, we can still come back.
Absolutely.
And it's hard because your boundary is different than my boundary.
Absolutely.
So that was one of the hard
So it kind of varies from teacher to teacher.
And we want them to have a lifestyle change.
Yeah,
Attitude
absolutely.
change instead of just, we want them, like you're saying, to have it so that they're a better person and can succeed in life, not just they can go on a dance or on a trip and
Absolutely. These are things that we want them to take on.
But some of them don't get that, and then it's kind of like a backfire. They just think, oh, if I'm good, I'm gonna get something. But then when they're good and they don't get anything, they're like, well, why was I good for?
Yeah, and
you
one of
don't
the
want them to think that way, which is kind of the downfall of.
Yeah, one of the pitfalls, as I've been reading about, the theory, is that people are saying that they become so conditioned to expect that one, reward or thing that they only do it for that reason. It's not something that lasts long or stays, or it kind of gets conditioned naturally into them. It's just for that one purpose.
It becomes a little bit of an entitlement thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Where I did this, and it'll backfire, and I've seen in my students I work with, whereas they think they deserve it just for maintaining where they should normally be.
Yeah, and they don't want to go beyond.
And then they don't realize that, okay, if you help a student or if you work together, if you work with somebody that you don't normally get along with, that is a reward. That is, whereas just coming in and doing your work, being on time, that's what's expected of you as it is. That's your baseline.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as a follow-up for you guys, as well as the classmates in my class online, one thing that I want you guys to think about, and this is up for discussion, understanding that we as teachers can use activities, field trips, and even candy. I know a lot of teachers that do use candy as a method of rewarding good, appropriate behavior. What else can we do as teachers to modify and implement theories that Pavlov has put forth to us within your individual classrooms? Keeping in mind that each of our classrooms, even within a 5 classes or 6 classes, are very much different. How else can we challenge our students to step up to the plate in a meaningful and effective